How do you do, coverkillernation? Time for us to talk about another review. As if that was a surprise. Here to talk about a progressive metal band from Germany, one that has been around since the latter part of the 1980s, first part of the 1990s, have a number of albums to their credit, and have been getting a little bit more acclaim as of recent, though they still don't have a large international appeal, I guess you could say, but they do have an international fan base that just needs to grow in numbers, and it really does. This is a number base for this group that needs to kind of explode as more and more people are kind of drawn into them. Vanden Plas, we have Chronicles of the Immortals, Part 1, The Netherworld. Now, Vanden Plas is a kind of a unique group in the progressive metal department in the fact that they kind of are treading just the traditional progressive metal highway, so to speak. They do have a lot of tremendous instrumentalization. It's not one where they are really overindulgent like a Dream Theater sometimes with their instrumentalization. This is instead something where it's very driven by the theater element. It's very driven by the vocal element intermixed with the musical element, which you would think every band would really be. And that would kind of be their principal goal, is to have that kind of balance. But they're a band that really showcases and desires to have each and every one of their songs have each individual voice and instrument really have a shine in some way, shape, or form, even if that shine is through silence. Even if that shine is maybe not having a percussive trait or having a softer guitar or no guitar at all. It's one where they're trying instead to take a very theatrical element to it to really emanate and showcase all of the different emotions that are trying to be projected through the music and the voice without directly having to beat into the skulls of the listener that is indeed what this is supposed to represent. By that token, it is no surprise that members of the band have been largely affiliated with theater, whether it be on a musical or a vocal front. It's also no surprise that on their album 2 albums ago, Cristo, there was a cover of Gethsemane, which was from Jesus Christ Superstar, which is really one of my most treasured songs of all time within my music collection, just because of how powerful and passionate and just it's a vocal acrobat show throughout the course of this just luscious song. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it to everybody. Look it up whenever you have the chance. Please do it, because I have a feeling that by listening to this you will fall in love with this band and will really want to explore more. I also feel the same way about this 55-minute long 10-track album here. And we know that because of this being Path 1, that there are going to be future albums based around this Chronicles of the Immortals idea, which almost sounds like they just combined the Chronicles of Narnia and Immortals, I guess the 300 sequel or movie that's like the 300. I don't know, I haven't seen it, but it's just kind of a strange thing for me. I like the title because it can really talk about just about anything. It can really talk about different gods or different deities that are from different cultures, and it can not only be based around just that, it can even go to the simplistic aspect of just focusing on the mythological and folklore of just one, either that, or it can go one step further and chronicle its own personal journey and really shape its own personal craft. And it's just really kind of an idea where the sky is really the limit. It has endless possibility, and because of that, you have really no end and no shortage of material that you can really go off of. And the greatest part about this is, with that in mind, the band doesn't feel pigeonholed, and you can definitely tell because this 55-minute long album does not feel like 55 minutes. I was able to tell this from the very first listen through. However, as subsequent listens continued on, I noticed it even more so. 55 minutes did not seem like it passed whenever I listened to it. The only proof that I had that it had indeed occurred is by looking at the clock and realizing, holy shit, I just lost almost an hour, and I felt like I really just lost about 20 minutes. And it's not because these songs are bad and I'm skipping around. Absolutely not. It's because these songs are very well constructed. They're very, very well done. The presentation is lovely, and you get caught up in this stuff. You know, you really become very, very personal with some of these different compositions, and you become very much wrapped within the world of these compositions. And the music really keeps you in because the music is just very well designed. It's designed very, very well. Gotta really praise a lot of the songcraft on this album. And this is songcraft that we have seen out of these guys for a number of albums now. They've really been on a roll. They've just been continuing to branch up and kind of go above and beyond with their songcraft over the past few records. And this being kind of a multi-album idea, it's kind of a risky endeavor, but at the same time, if there's any band out there that I think could really pull this off and do it well, especially based around the extensive theater background and some of their own personal philosophies on the whole idea of making and creating music, I think that Vanden Plas definitely has a tremendous, tremendous edge by comparison to other bands that have either attempted the feat, either that or have thought about it and have scrapped ideas based around how complex and how difficult and how very taxing completing something like this can easily become. Now, being a progressive metal band, you would think that this is something that's going to be very run-of-the-mill Dream Theater worship, but that's not really the case. The emotional aspect of this album is something that really grips you and kind of is what helps pull you into these narratives. They're able to do this with both musical and vocal elements that blend together very nicely, and everything feels in check and everything feels like it's in harmony. There's no place here where it feels as though Andy, their vocalist, is struggling to kind of match a tone in which the music is trying to set up. And also there are tremendous moments where the music itself is able to kind of meet him in the middle. That way they're able to create something that has a nice balance to it, while at the same time not sounding too generic, not sounding too run-of-the-mill. This is all music that has the character to it that's able to build onto the greater passion, not to mention also to onto the add on to the bigger story. These are all presented in visions, and that's kind of going to be the theme, I believe, throughout the course of this whole entire cycle of albums. And based around this, you have the ability to very quickly latch on to a couple of them. In fact, you can latch on to the very first track, Black Knight, after a short introduction, just simply because it really takes all of the ideas that you would want from a maybe an epic closer, either that or a keynote song from the middle of an album, and puts it right there at the beginning. Really introduces you to the world, not to mention also does everything in its power, and succeeds, by the way, in really starting off this album on just a tremendous foot. And so often I find that a lot of these like double album sets or two-part ideas sometimes suffer from the fact that they feel that they can gradually build as opposed to really getting you enveloped in this world from the get-go, because you really need to introduce something strong as an expositionary point in music, just the same as you would in either a book or a television series or even a movie. It's something where you have to approach it with kind of the same general idea. Even though it sounds like a tired formula, it is one, however, that really helps to maintain attention, and really, I guess, in this period of the cycle, to really grip the attention and make sure that that attention is focused directly on the idea, as opposed to having it kind of linger around, dally around, and have the potential to break away from that what you have started. I really enjoyed this album because of these ideas. I also love the fact that songs such as The King and The Children of the Lost World really just grip you with so much power. You kind of have songs like that just have a lot of power and a lot of replayability scattered all throughout this album. You also have a very varied difference in the tone of the album. You have songs that have a little bit more of a direct focus to it, something that's a little bit more aggressive, and then songs such as Misery Affection that are a lot more softer in the element. And it really makes for a great combination. It makes for a great variety. It makes for this album not getting dull, not getting boring. Not to mention, it also adds on to that very visual, that very theater-based interaction with the audience, because there's no show out there that is going to be without conflict, either that or without a moment where you kind of have to sit back and kind of reflect on things, or there's not going to be a moment without some love, or not going to be a moment that requires something that has a little bit of a softer touch to it. It's just something that really drives home the variability, and not to mention helps to craft and create a play or a theater show that is going to stick in the user's mind. You want people to go home after the show and be thinking about this, not only just for that evening, but something that they can recall and recollect to all of their friends for a long time, and really recommend it, while also, in their minds, really staying focused on that story and having that story have a real lasting power to it. And musically speaking, this is doing the exact same thing. It has a lot of lasting power to it. These are going to be songs that the keys are going to be pounding in my head whenever I go to sleep tonight. And then I'm also going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to go to work and I'm going to tell, a couple of my coworkers that may be looking for some new or exciting music, or some of my customers, about this group and about this album, and it's just going to kind of snowball. And I think that's something that needs to be done kind of nationwide and worldwide for these guys, because it does have just a tremendous application to a lot of different people. I really have to give this album a strong score. Got to give it an 85 out of 100. It just has done so much to really showcase why Vanden Plas' approach has really been working, not only for them, but also why it's been working to win over more and more people. It's just got a tremendous amount of touch to it. They have songwriting ability that just is able to not overexpose itself to itself, while also maintaining a high level of tact. Not to mention the way in which they craft these as a whole, these albums as a whole, is done very intelligently, very astutely, and it pays in leads once you finish it. So, what did you guys think about this album? What do you guys think about this band? Have you heard of them before? Let me know in the comments. And if not, what are your first impressions of this group after listening to a couple of tracks, whether it be Gethsemane, which I recommended earlier, which is off of a previous album, or just from what you've heard on this album thus far. Let me know in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.